Hi, this is Chief Education Officer Bill Olson, and welcome to another school district update. From time to time, I like to have people who are very instrumental in terms of the operations of the school district come on the program with me so that you can get to know a little bit more about them and what they do, how they function, and the importance of them to the school district. And today, I'm very pleased to have our Director of Technology, Jason Pelletier, with me. Jason, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
Jason is really one of the most important staff members who we have in the school district because, as you know, nothing happens today without the involvement of technology. And Jason is the person who helps us plan, helps us implement, helps us review what we're doing, keeps us up to date, making sure that we address the ever-present issue of obsolescence, of infrastructure, of inventory, and everything in between. So, Jason, welcome again. Let me ask you about your background, because you've done an outstanding job for us. Just in the, I think it's 2 to 2.5 years you've been with us. Tell me a little bit about your background and what you've done for employment over the years before coming to Merrimack.
Sure. So I have been in education for almost 17 years now. Before that, I worked for a couple of years for a company that actually worked where I worked in to help schools build computer labs and whatnot. So for a couple of the districts I worked in Chester, New Hampshire, in Windham. I was in Mass for a short period of time at Greater Lowell Tech, Litchfield, and now here. So I've had a lot of experience in different realms and different capacities, from technician to network administrator to the tech director role, network managers, things like that.
So you've got a very interesting background in terms of not only with the devices, with the educational need that sort of drives the type of device, but also a lot of what is behind the walls and above the ceilings and everywhere in between. Let's talk a little bit about the evolution of technology in education. I can remember back about 30 or 35 years ago when Apple, when Tandy Corporation, Commodore, IBM, began to market technology to the education market. There was a lot of competition, a lot of shakeout in the industry over about a 5-year period, which ultimately resulted in Apple having a very dominant position. It was interesting, Jason, that there was actually, when I was assistant superintendent of schools in Lowell, Massachusetts, which is where Greater Lowell Tech is, we were approached by a British company, Acorn Computer, kind of a takeoff on the Apple. It was a company that was very heavily subsidized by the British Broadcasting Corporation, and we went through all sorts of tests with their units, and it was quite a sophisticated piece of equipment at the time, and somewhat rivaled what Apple had in terms of applicability, reliability. The only thing they didn't have, however, was they didn't have third-party software being written for their operating system, and so they had no market share. And even though it was a very sophisticated piece of technology for the time, desktop unit, I don't think it ever went anyplace. I've kind of lost track of what happened to Acorn, but there's where you have to have that software development for it to be fully integrated into the education process. Now, you're responsible for not only education software, but also for administrative software. What is it that's important to you in terms of understanding the needs of children from an educational perspective and the application of technology? What is it that you advise? And I know what you've been advising us, but over the years, what have you looked for in terms of, here's the unit that we need to have and for this reason?
So I think one of the most important things is to look at the type of student that's in front of you, right? So when I was in school, my needs as a human being are different than the needs of the children of today, right? In trying to understand how they learn, where their brain development is, the type of atmosphere and what they're growing up in, but also to try to, in a way, predict what they're going to be facing in the future as well, right? So I always kind of look back, like at when I was younger, I needed this, but now like my son needs something different, right? So trying to understand that and having a little bit of a little bit of that psychology and that learning, and like how does the brain learn at these different stages. Some people don't really think about that on the tech side of things. We think that we're ones and zeros, which we are, right? We're heavy in ones and zeros, but having the needs of that student and what they're going to need in the future is really that jumping block to what's possible, what can we do, and then what I take from there is what technology is out there that will help enhance that, right? Because we all know that the teacher in front of that student is the most important part of that learning process, as well as that student. The technology takes a back plane, but what can it do to help support that teacher and help support that student in learning, right? So when I first started in schools, we were really building computer labs, right? So we were helping that teacher have a lab where the students can learn and have hands-on experience with either like typing or using some editing software, things of that nature, right? And then we grew out and we started adding the computers in the classroom, right? So now what was happening in the lab now can be transversed and done in the classroom, right? And then you had like one-to-one that started. I think it was like around 2009. New Hampshire's first public school for one-to-one. I think it was in 2009, and now we have these devices in the hands of every child, and now they can take ownership of their own learning, right? And we did a lot of content creation there and whatnot. So now we're seeing more and more of the student taking ownership of their learning and going down these other avenues of how they can create this content, how they can learn and submerge themselves. So really taking that approach of what is actually possible, how do we get them there? And it's not always a device, right? We have to figure out how we can get the data from said device all the way out to cloud. Everything's cloud now for the most part with everything. So how do we do that effectively, efficiently, within a specific budget? But also do it safely and reliably, because we have tons of data privacy agreements that we have to deal with. We have tons of people out there that are trying to do ransomware, trying to get that data, sell it. So really it's having a pulse on so many different pieces, and it's such a fun job to do, but it can be kind of complex to do it at the same time. So we do a little bit of predicting, we do a little bit of psychology, we stay on top of what's going on in the industry and with trends and whatnot, right? Like AI is the big piece of what's going on right now. So really it's kind of making it so that technology is so reliable, so available, that it actually takes a back seat. And if you could do that, and anything that gets thrown at us for like unknowns, for new types of technology, immersive technology, if we can make sure that we can provide for that, then I would say that that's a solid infrastructure. That's a solid plan, a technology plan to help students learn, teachers learn, and also help business keep going.
Yeah, we're in the process, as you know, of developing a 3-year strategic plan right now that will be completed over the next several months. And technology is an important component of almost every part of our strategic plan. You know, back about 30 or 35 years ago, I can remember talking with a school committee in a town in which I worked in Massachusetts, and saying that there is no just one foot in with technology. You have to jump in completely, and there's no turning back, and the technology would be one of the largest elements of our annual school budget every year, regardless of the community, regardless of where in America. because it has changed to such a degree and so rapidly in the private sector, in the world of commerce, that we are always having to deal with some degree of obsolescence and therefore replacement and renewal. Tell me a little bit about how you approach taking a look at what our needs are in terms of the numbers of devices, the types of devices. Does the type of device vary from the earliest grade levels to high school level?
Yeah, so great question. So for instance, when I first started, right, it's like I need to get a pulse on what's really happening. What do we really have for devices? What's really in the network closets? What's really happening in the classrooms to help kind of formulate where we really are, right? And one of the things I've learned throughout the years is it's definitely not the most state of the art equipment that'll get you where you need to go, right? But it's the reliability and it's the like having something that's sufficient, you know, that can grow for a specific amount of time, but also not too much, right? So
something that's tested and reliable.
Absolutely, because the last thing you want is a teacher or a class or a school to be like, I don't know if this technology stuff's going to work for me. So therefore I'm not going to do it. What's the buy-in for that? And we also want to be cognizant of pricing, and we also want to make sure that something's going to last, especially when we have lots of hands on things, right? So looking at that, it's kind of what are the bare necessities, right? You have to have reliable switching, you have to have redundancy, you have to have appropriate storage, and then where is that storage, right? And then also how fast is your connection out to the internet, out to the network, out to the other schools, right? And then from that you can get a pulse of what's possible right now with our infrastructure, and then also looking at what we have for the students. What are we looking at for the use of a kindergarten student? What's appropriate? And then what's appropriate all the way up through 12th grade, right? So one size doesn't fit all. So the way things are used and appropriated at elementary definitely looks different in high school. But along the way, we can still use a lot of the similar conduits, right? It's just a lot of times what we're doing is we're scaffolding those skills up and up and up, and the proficiency of the learner continues up. So what they're doing in kindergarten and first grade is going to be a lot of foundational. So what do they need to build that foundation and those skills? So you're going to see a little bit more touchscreen devices, right? But also you still need to introduce that keyboard, right? It's multifaceted. That keyboard is very intimidating, has lots of letters, but we're also at that point where those students are learning those letters and how to formulate words and how to build sentences and all that stuff. So having that intimidating keyboard in front of them is also very, very important, because some people might argue the touchscreen is where it's all at, but we can also use the keyboard to do a lot of additional enrichment of some of that.
Yeah, so there's not only a child development perspective to planning out the nature of technology that we need and the acquisition of it, but there's definitely a pedagogical consideration also in terms of how is this going to be used, how does it weave into a teacher's ability to deliver the curriculum. Many decades ago, when school districts around the country began to purchase technology, a lot of people approached it from the perspective of, let's buy a device and put it on a teacher's desk and great things will happen.
Right.
As if it was something magical that everybody knew how to use immediately once it was available, and that wasn't the case. And so I think school districts began to switch from, well, it's not how many devices that we can possibly purchase and deploy. What is it that we actually need to do with these devices? What is the training we need to provide to the staff? And that will drive what we do and how we do it. And so Tell me a little bit about the importance of professional development with all staff, and what you've done for us in terms of bringing quality PD related to the use and application of technology in the district.
Sure. So I think you hit the nail on the head on one of the most important pieces as far as education technology, right? Is it just doesn't happen organically just with a device, right? It takes a lot of work and effort for that to happen, and a lot of professionals, and we have tons of them in Merrimack, right? People that are willing to work and learn and help grow themselves to also help grow the students, right? So having avenues and availability for them to learn and see what is possible, because a lot of people, even if you're new out of college, there isn't there aren't those classes of this is how you use technology in the classroom, really, right? And this is how to be proficient. And it changes so often that if you're not somebody that is that's something that you're into and you're intrinsically motivated to do that, you need help. Like, everybody wants to be good at their job and help grow kids, but sometimes your brain's wired in a different way, or you've done things in a different way. So that's why that PD piece is so important, and offering multiple ways to that professional development. So for instance, what we try to do, if at all possible, is do exactly what we try to hope that our teachers do, and model multiple ways of learning, right? So every student learns differently, as well as every adult learner learns differently as well. So what the teachers do in the classroom works with the adults in many ways too. So try to give them different avenues. Have the ability for them to do small group instruction, whole group instruction, one-on-one instruction, self-paced instruction, and blend that all together and help have people that are there to support them along the way. It's very scary sometimes for people to do things on their own and be out on their own. We always have that safety net of trusted individuals, right? So what we try to do right now is make sure that we have PD that's available. So one of the last PD sessions that we did, we had our tech integrators and DLSs go and create content in Google Classroom that's going to be there and to be available to even like new employees that come in next year, and have it so that if I did learn on a 101, right? So like we did like Google Training 101, and then now that I've grown out of that 101, I've tried stuff and I feel more comfortable, now there's an option for me to go to 102. Everybody has the opportunity to make an appointment with somebody to do one-on-one training. So it's not like just on PD day either. It's anytime that you need that help. So we try to do videos, we try to do step-by-step lessons, communication, all of those types of things. So it's kind of we try to do as much as we possibly can, just because every learner's a little bit different for them. But we also try to help guide them, because you don't know what you don't know. So we'll come up with themes along the way. One of the I think it was the first full summer I was here, we created a PD team where we were talking about tech and learning, and created a skit, right? So we try to go and make it fun to learn as much as we possibly can as well.
Do you find that there is a generational component here, that some of the younger staff, from a demographic perspective, just coming out of college over the last 3, 4, 5, 8, 10 years, are more skilled in the use of technology in the classroom?
It's really funny that you asked that, because I still say that it's all over the place, right? So I've worked with end users that maybe they're proficient on. So a lot of the new users that we'll get from for like teachers and whatnot, I call them users, but new teachers, amazing at navigating ins and outs of new applications, right? That they're used to it, right? When you have like a cell phone, you're in and out of it. And a lot of them are still very proficient at the learning side, but sometimes it's it's how do you reach your audience? How do you reach your students to use that tool, right? But then also I'll have some people that are, that have been teaching and are seasoned, have been in the doing it for 30 plus years, that can just take to it, and they just need a little bit of guidance, and they're extremely good users. So I find that we have to reach the new users in a different way, and train them and teach them one way, as well as having another avenue for the more seasoned adult. But it still varies. It's very, very interesting.
So in a manner of speaking, there is nothing easy about the implementation of technology in a school district. I mean, there is so much variability in terms of skill, so much variability in terms of equipment and its capabilities. We've got a few more minutes left. Talk to me a little bit about the impact of artificial intelligence on education.
Sure. So I could talk about this subject for a long time, but I think the important piece of AI is, one, the masses don't really understand exactly what it does and how it works, right? And how does that apply? But one thing's for sure is that AI is in anything new, right? So anything that comes out now, it has some type of machine learning, any type of AI added to it. So it's here to stay, whether we like it or not. So it's really going to be up to us to figure out what to do with that. Now, as far as that has to do with education, I'm not sold on AI in teaching students, right? But I am definitely sold on AI on streamlining processes and processes. It's to make a system and make a district more efficient, right? We're not talking about removing people. We're talking, like jobs, right? We're talking about making people more efficient, having a lot of what I call white noise, those mundane tasks, and having your own assistant help you remove some of that monotony, so that you can really get down and do that really important work. But also, the other side of that is the part of AI that's going to be important to our students, right? So how do we teach them how to use this technology and what this technology is to better them when they go to the next step, the next level for them in their lives?
It's really quite intriguing to see where we are and where this world is potentially going in terms of the use and the development of new technologies. In some areas it's concerning in that we know that countries can disrupt utility services, etc., by hacking into systems and impeding the ability to operate. And I've noticed also in colleges and universities across the country now, cybersecurity is certainly becoming a big issue, and that's a subject for another day. Very briefly, we've talked about units that are held, that are on the desk, sort of ancillary equipment, projectors, screens, boards, document cameras, etc. But there's a lot that goes on behind the walls, above the ceilings.
There is.
And you're responsible for all of that also, right? There's the switches, the routers, the cabling, the you name it, the servers. You got to make sure that we've got enough infrastructure to make sure that we can support all of the both educational and administrative technology.
Absolutely, and I have a great team to do it. It's definitely not one person or a small amount of people making this happen. It's a ton of people. The team is amazing. The people in Merrimack are amazing. So we're able to get that done because we have great people behind the scenes doing that.
I often say when in budget meetings with either the school board or the budget committee that the budget book is a book of numbers. Each number represents something that we're doing for a child or a staff member. And when you look at the technology budget, I hope everyone who is watching this has a little bit more of an understanding in terms of the complexity of technology in the modern day education environment. That there are a lot of considerations: equipment, infrastructure, professional development, pedagogical nature of the application of technology. So it's not going to go away.
No.
It underscores the importance of a person like yourself with great skills in terms of knowing about technology and the potential that it possesses, but also your ability to plan for the future. So, I've enjoyed having Jason on the program today. I wanted to bring him in and talk with me because it's important that you understand, once again, where your tax dollars go and what you receive for those dollars in return. What's your return on investment? It just doesn't happen by happenstance. It happens by careful planning, careful implementation of the plan, review, reflection, and follow-up. And that happens certainly with this component of our school department budget, our school department daily operations. So, Jason, can't thank you enough.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Been an enjoyable conversation with you, and hopefully people in the audience have gained a little bit more understanding of what we're doing with technology and how we're doing it and why we're doing it. So I want to thank you for viewing today. As of this filming, we have only 30 more school days left in the school year. And in closing out, I want to thank you for all the support that you've given us once again this year. It is really a community effort in terms of providing a quality educational experience to students. And so thank you very much. On behalf of Jason Pelletier, our great technology director, this is Bill Olson, Chief Education Officer. Look forward to seeing you next time.